早上好。早上好。
今天开学第一天，妈妈送你来学校，一会儿啊就让你自己来喽。
早上好。早上好。
以后自己的事情要自己做，知道吗？
妈妈小时候也是在读这所学校吗？
是啊，你在里面会交到很多的新朋友，学到很多新知识。
可是我们为什么要上学呢？
曾经的我也有过同样的疑问。最初，我们在游戏中认识这个世界，带着一颗好奇的心，感知形状、颜色、材料、结构，在信任的目光中，勇敢探索未知的一切。
为什么这种花会长大？
今天是我们开学的第一天，
我们逐渐领悟，知识需要自己去发现。课堂上的自由讨论，天马行空的想象，练习中跳动的音符，都是知识的隐喻。当我们打破四面墙，天地便是我们最广阔的课堂。
所有的野外的古生物学家都是通过这个方法把化石带回学校。
在真实的互动中，捕捉时代的脉动；在真诚的交流中，我们勾勒现实的图景。当学习融入生活，成为一种习惯，它将伴随我们的一生。在老师们的陪伴下，我们取得一个又一个的学习里程碑。但优异的分数真的是学校教育的全部吗？那些课堂之外一同面对的挑战，一起筹备的夏日音乐会，还有赛场上那关键的一分，这些微小而珍贵的时刻，才是分数之外学校赋予我们的更长远的价值。如果你问我，怎样才能成为一名优秀的学生，不如让我们换一个问题：你想成为什么样的人
Currently a dance teacher.
And currently a
I'm
teacher.
the founder of 100% Human and the co-founder of Pet
现在的
University.
工作是生物医药。
做青少年教育咨询相关。
I am a senior manager.
Singer, performer,
My
and
mission is to promote peace and bring out this message.
在这个瞬息万变的时代，没有任何知识能保证一个人永远处于潮头，唯有自主学习和终身学习的能力，才能让我们在面对未来风雨时自信而笃定。在这个多元的世界里，我们将清晰地认识自己，找到内心中真正的目标，相信自己是独一无二的。
妈，
我想，我们来学校就是为了像你一样提问题，然后自己找出它的答案。 未来是属于你的。
Everyone, good evening, welcome. And we're so happy you're able to join us for our third CUGO webinar series, our episode number 3. My name is John Liu. I'm the head of career and university guidance and student support at YCYW. And I'm very, very thankful to be joined with my colleague, Jennifer Liu, who is the head of career and university guidance at our Yawa Lingan campus. And we're really excited to share with you tonight about more information about applying to the UC schools. Jennifer?
好，大家晚上好。我们学指导的在线讲座，我们第三场。那么我们今天非常荣幸能够邀请到我们的加州戴维斯分校的招生官女士Lee女士为大家解读加州系统的这个申请。那么今天晚上是由我们的耀中耀华职业与升学指导主任John Liu和我来自于耀中耀华临港校区的升学指导主管今天晚上我们会为大家呈现这场讲座。
Thank you all, students and parents, for submitting your questions to be asked to San. In a moment, you'll be joining our webinar, and you'll see that the questions that she'll be answering actually comes directly from you. During the webinar, if you have any additional questions, feel free to write them in the chat box, whether you're watching us through PolyV or WeChat Live. Feel free to write questions in English or in Chinese. Jennifer and I will either be answering those questions through the chat, or we will answer them at the live Q&A session, which will be after the webinar with San, and we'll answer them live through this webinar with you. So leave your questions, ask any question that you would like, and we'd be happy to answer them.
感谢大家提回答的问题呢，都是针对于大家关心的一些问题，所以我们非常希望您能够享受接下来的这一场在线直播。那您可以将您的疑问在聊天框通过不同的平台打出来，那我们或者是及时会在聊天框回答您的问题，或者在本场讲座结束以后，我们会有一个在线的 Q&A 的环节，我们也会针对您的疑问来做解答。
Thank you so much. Without any further ado, let's pass you to so you have a chance to watch the webinar and learn from San. See you after the webinar, everybody. Enjoy.
接下来请。
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us again for our third episode of our YCYW CUGO webinar series. We are so privileged and thankful to have Ms. San Lee from the University of California at Davis join us to talk about the amazing institution of UC Davis and also answer your questions about the UC systems, et cetera. So San, welcome. And before I get started, would you mind just introducing yourself to our YCYW community?
Sure. Thank you, John. Hi, everybody. My name is San Lee. I work for UC Davis as Associate Director of International Admissions and Recruitment in Davis. I have been with Davis since 2011. I also went to UC Davis. That's why I got my undergrad. Doing this job is great because being able to advocate and talk to international students and parents like yourself, it really helps us to, connect the admission process and also hopefully we'll answer some of your questions and also ease up a little bit of your anxiety. Thank you for inviting me, John. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. And then again, thank you, community members, for sending in your questions because your questions is what drives our conversation. So San, I'm just going to start with, I do have a question where I think this comes from a student where the student is asking about, can you just tell us a little bit more about the University of California systems? And then how do the universities work with each other? What is that system like to understand the system of the UCs?
Of course. So University of California, we have one application for all 9 undergraduate campuses. So there's actually 10 UC campuses, none of them are undergraduate, all throughout California. 4 of us are closer to Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area, and 5 of us are closer to LA, San Diego area. So students can pick and choose which ones they want to go to. All the UCs were public research institution. It means that our main mission is to teach, research, and also providing public service. So that's something that we're looking for. If students are looking for lots of resources, opportunities, things like that, because with the size of our universities, we also have lots of opportunities with internship, research opportunities, and clubs, activities as an undergrad student. So definitely one of the best, one of the largest public research institution system in the nation. So that's kind of what the UC as a whole is.
Great, thank you so much. And I really kind of want to focus in on UC Davis because, it is such a great institution. It's also, if I'm correct, the largest of the UCs. So I know there's a lot of great programs that are available at UC Davis, but I think some of our students just wanted to know maybe your personal favorites or some of the ones you would like to highlight for our community to know, or if there's anything new, for example, that you wanted to share that's at Davis.
Great. So Davis is the college town within the UC school. So I think when students are picking and selecting which UCs and majors, they have to think about the school size, the location, what major is available at different UCs and all that. I personally like Davis because it's close to San Francisco Bay Area where I have family that are there. So the proximity to San Francisco Bay Area. Being a college town, it means that we have about 67,000 people live in Davis. More than half of them are students. So everyone you run into, you interact with would have an affiliation with the university, students, faculty, or staff like myself, or our families. So it's really, really a great community there. Some of the things that are very special in Davis is, yes, you're right, John, we're the largest UC campus. We're the 3rd largest by enrollment in terms of all the UCs. And we have lots of things on campus. We have our performing arts center. We have a hotel on campus, all these facilities, all these research labs. We even have an airport where students can learn how to fly an airplane through our aviation club. So that's kind of cool. We also have a lot of research space. With our specialty in Davis, we were found our agriculture and environmental science were our founding majors, where this is very strong, especially in a place like California. Definitely, there's a lot of things about environmental science, sustainability, as well as farming and things like that with agriculture. However, behind all those, we also have food science, nutrition, viticulture enology. It's a winemaking program at UC Davis. I believe that we're the only UCs that have that major. Within that, we also have beer making. Our College of Engineering has a program in the mechanic behind coffee. We have a coffee center on campus where they do research for coffees and things like that. So some really cool stuff in that space. On top of that, we also have some really cool majors, like we have a very strong animal science major where our veterinary medicine school is constantly ranked number 1 or 2 in the world for students. So we also have a large population of students who are really strong in STEM. With all the UCs, we're really strong in STEM. So science, technology, engineering, math are really strong. Some of our most popular major in Davis, psychology, economics, computer sciences. So I want to say that any majors that can be a major at the UCs are really good. My personal favorite, which is also our up and coming in Davis right now, is a business major. Our business major is actually under the Graduate School of Management. So that's something that is very cool, where students will get access to faculty that teaching at both levels, for undergrad and graduate level. So that's something that we're really very, very excited. And this is also a major that is years in making. So when I was a student, they were talking about making it. And now this year, they're finally making their debut. So this is also a major that we are hoping that we're connecting business with a lot of industry insight in different areas. For example, for students who are interested in healthcare, but also in business. Basically, you can't have doctors running hospital. You will have to have someone who have a business mind, who know the numbers and the finance and all those to run a hospital. So we were trying to tie all those different fields into business. So hopefully it will become something that will give students a tool other than just accounting and finance and marketing, right? But we want to make sure that they are in different fields and connecting with different fields as well for the business major.
That's cool. Thank you so much. It sounds like there's so much that's available for students, and and it's just very cool to have all those diverse majors. I mean, I always knew that environmental science, also like agricultural sciences is huge in Davis. But just hearing the array is amazing. And I'm glad you brought up some of the helping students find, their next steps and, internship opportunities, because that is actually one of the questions, that our parents have asked and students and parents have asked. So students and parents, just to let you know, I took your questions and I kind of summarized them into one because there's many of them. But the question is more about internships for international students and perhaps students that are coming from China. I think our parents and our students are a lot more aware of, the kind of the affordability of university and also the opportunity for them to get work or find work after coming out of finishing undergraduate university. So the question is, can you just share first about, what are some of the internship opportunities that are available for international students, and how does Davis help support with that process for international students?
Davis actually has the oldest internship and career center within the whole UC system. So they place about 20,000 jobs in internship every year. So our internship and career center, they offers a wide variety of services, including before students get their job, we help them with their cover letter, their resume, interview workshop, things like that to prep them to apply for those jobs. ICC also have fairs that actually career fairs. So if you have been to a college fair where university reps are behind the table, this is a fairs where actually companies, recruiters, they're behind the table to look for students for internship, part-time job, or even for a soon-to-be graduate to be hired. So I would encourage students to take advantage of these resources and kind of utilize that, the Internship and Career Center, to help them to look for jobs at internship. I think in the UC system or many US universities, we encourage students to get as much experience as they can because we want them to be ready by the time they graduate. So I always tell students that don't look for jobs at internship at the last year. You kind of have to start in the first year to kind of get maybe some on-campus jobs, opportunities, experiences. So by the time in your third and fourth year, when you're looking at a job where it's more relevant to your majors and skill set and things like that, then you already have some work experience to kind of support you through the application. And we try to do that. And for some of our majors, we also have some additional fairs for them. For example, there's like a STEM fair that's for students who are in STEM, or there's the engineering fairs where it's all the engineering major companies from the Bay Area and such. So we do have every year, every quarter, we actually have some big fairs. There's also still some virtual fairs as well. So there's a combination of in-person fairs and virtual fairs to kind of help students to look for jobs and internships and such.
Great. So, I mean, it's great to hear all of that support. And I think another question then kind of related to their student experience on campus and kind of, I guess, the international student transition. We have some students have asked if you can share a little bit about how does UC Davis, help international students get acclimated to UC Davis and maybe just, the kind of the American culture and the American space.
I think that is something that we're working on. To be very honest, I think this is a space that we can always work on. I personally think that we are doing a pretty good job in terms of helping students to acclimate it to a university, because we're a big university. We're not going to be like we're small. We're not, right? We have about 31,000 undergrad students, and that's a big student population. So a few things that we have done over the years is we're trying to change a few of our approach in terms of making sure that students are connecting with each other. So our orientation is required. It's mandatory for everyone. So it's right before the school year starts. So everybody is actually coming on campus at the same time and doing that 4-day orientation with everybody else. So back in the day when I was a student, everything is separated. Like international students have one orientation and then the students from California have one orientation. And now, because we feel like everything, we need to kind of help them to get to know each other a little bit better. So our orientation office had changed that approach. In each of our college, we also have what we call the International Academic Advisor. So generally speaking, students will have a major advisor in the major. In each major, they will have a college advisor within the college. And for international students, they also have an International Academic Advisor that only serve first-year international students to answer any questions they may have, changing classes, changing major, double major, all those things, right? But we also have what we call the Global Ambassador Mentorship Program, where we try to match our students who are. Many of our students actually are cross-cultural. They're not just one other culture, but they could be from certain places, grew up in other places, and go to the US or coming back to the US. So there's just so many different cultures. So the Global Ambassador Program actually helps students to match them where students may have similar background, that they are very cross-cultured, or they might have born in some places and grew up in the US, to kind of get them acclimated. And also, I think a lot of times that many of the students that would come in, English is not really an issue because they go to a school that is taught in English. But really, I think the culture, especially the pop culture, I think nowadays with students and all that, I think that's something that they can really get help from. So I want to say that we are doing a pretty good job on retaining our students. In terms of our retention rate, I think most of our rates are over 90% from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, and year 3 to year 4. So I think that tells you, because a lot of times parents might be looking at the rankings and all that, but it doesn't really tell you anything. I think looking at if you're a student from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, and so on, that kind of gives you an idea of if students are succeeding in that environment. Because if they're staying, if they're excelling, that means that we're doing something right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think actually my question then is a follow-up to that, because there were some of our students that also just wondering, beyond the kind of the social support and the cultural support, what academic support is there for a student that maybe is coming from to this new learning environment, like they needed some help, so for example, tutoring or so forth. Can you just share a little bit about what would be available for international students at Davis?
Yes, this is something that we try to advertise to our international student, the Academic Success Center, where they can get help in tutoring in different classes. So not just math and English, but they also have specific ones for different classes and different subjects. I feel like students from the Asian culture, especially, a lot of times that, for math and science, you might be, at a higher level in many places. However, when you're coming to a university setting, I think a lot of times that you might need that extra help with the research skills, or even the citations with the grammar, things like that. So our Academic Success Center definitely helps students with those space. And I would encourage students to get help early on. Don't try to figure it out yourself, because you do have the academic advisor to make sure that you're on track, but at the same time, you would have to make an appointment with them. I think coming from, a school, like YCAS or YW, I think you have a really close-knit community. When you come to a school like Davis, I would encourage you to take advantage of all the resources. And the best part is everything is already included in the tuition. So you already paid for the services, so you might as well take advantage of those.
Great. Thank you so much. I think these next two sets of questions are really coming from parents. And I think it's really around safety. I think there's been a lot of things that they see, at least in media here in China, about safety concerns in the United States. Can you speak a little bit about, kind of just safety on campus and what UC Davis provides as far as providing a safe space for students?
Mm-hmm. We definitely, being college town helps because everyone is in the community. Of course, I always tell students, wherever you end up going, make good choices. Make good choices is very important, because if you're hungry at midnight, I feel like Asia, especially in China, is such a safe place where you go out, 10, 11 p.m., it's fine. You just, or you order out or whatever. It's okay. But a lot of times any spaces outside of China, outside of Asia, I feel like don't do that. Just because, it's a different culture and you're still getting used to everything. So I feel like just getting to know the space and also make good choices. We do have a few, of course, resources for students to make sure that they are safe. For example, we have the Safe Ride, where students, if they are, say, at the library studying at the 2 a.m., if they are super late and trying to go back to their residence hall, they can call or text this number and somebody is going to go pick them up and all that. So we also have some, the blue lights installed in our campuses where there is emergency buttons that they can press and such. So I want to say being college town helps just in general because there's not as many outside people coming to our town and our campus. But at the same time, wherever you end up going, I want to say that make good choices is really important. And also understanding, the cultures that it's different comparing to the place that you grew up in.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And then another question following up is just housing. I think this is from a student. It's just, yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about the housing process at Davis, and then, you know, the housing system and what housing is available for first-year students?
Yeah, in Davis, first-year housing is guaranteed, so you can live on campus. Over 95% of our freshmen do live on campus in their first year. So wherever you end up going, I'd say living on campus is really cool because that's the easiest way to make friends. So for our students, it doesn't matter if they're from like Sacramento, which is 20 minutes away, or if they live in Shanghai or they live in Yantai, you know, you're away from home. So that's really the easiest way for you to make friends. And the good thing about living on campus is everything is included, right? So you don't have to figure out paying the bill and all those great things, or cooking, because we have a dining common that you can go eat, and you don't have to do dishes too because they will do dishes for you. But you do have to figure out your laundry and all that. So that's important. But being a college town, even for our second, third, fourth year students, if they live off campus, it's really easy to find housing. That's something that I would say. Another thing is many universities like Davis will have different themes for our freshmen in different housing areas. So for example, we have one is for students who are interested in entrepreneurship and leadership, and there's one is for students who are interested in engineering. So by doing that, you already find a group of friends that have a similar interest than you. So when you are picking and choosing your housing options, you can pick a theme, or you'll be like, well, I'm just going to try my luck and see what happens. But in most cases, I'll encourage you to pick a theme so you kind of have someone to share something in common with.
Great. That sounds great. So in the next section now, I'm going to kind of move toward a set of questions that are related to the application process and academic requirements. Because it's great that the UCs are all on one applications, but I think sometimes it could be a little bit bewildering for some of our students. But I'll just start with just the academic requirements, actually. So there's one question here that asks, how do IB and A-level qualifications compare with the U.S. high school diploma in terms of admissions? And I know, as you know, our YCIS students are in the IB system, and our YAWA students are in the A-level system.
Right. We like them all. We don't compare. First of all, we don't compare students. We want to see you making the most of what is available to you. Meaning, if your school is IB, then do the full IB, right? If your school is A-level, then do the full A-level with the IGCSE and all the good things. So we don't actually compare students. I know it gets tricky because sometimes students are like, oh, do you prefer AP? Because that's an American curriculum. We don't have preferences. We really like them all. Even we take students from Gaokao too. So we don't actually, there is no such thing as to which one is better. So I would say stick with your school curriculum because your school believes that they're doing it the best. That's why they have the curriculum. So stick with it. If you're IB, do the IB. You don't have to take extra AP classes or AP exam outside. I would say stick with your school curriculum is the most important because that way we can kind of see what your growth is and what kind of classes that you're taking, what is available at your school and what's not available at your school. That's something that we care a lot about. And we do look at the all 4 years. So grade 9, 10, 11, 12. So for China, it's a 12 Gaoyi, Gao'er, Gaozan, so 4 years.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And then another question from a student. So are there any specific IB subjects or A-levels courses that are preferred for certain majors? And if there's a way for them to find out what those preferences are when they do their research?
Generally speaking, if you're IB students, we look for the IBDP. And then if you're A-level students, we look for 3 subjects in the A-level. And hopefully you also had your IGCSE, which has a minimum of 5 requirements. If your school has AS, we also look for the 3 AS. So basically, there's no preferences as to what classes. However, for example, if you are like a physics major, right, we'll be looking for strong math and some strong science. So I think sometimes students are like, well, I want to be an engineering major, but if you're not taking some challenging math classes or challenging science classes that will prepare you for that, you might find it more challenging when you come to our schools. So that's something that we would always tell students that if you think you're going to be an engineer, if you don't like math, there's going to be an issue, right? So kind of think about it like that. We don't have a strict requirements in terms of which subject. I always tell students that pick it to your level where you can excel. Of course, if you feel like you can challenge yourself, definitely do it. But if I would rather you get an A in like the standard level than getting like a C in higher level, just because, that doesn't help you in terms of our GPA calculation and such. So I always tell students that do to your best ability and also pick the curriculum that is to your best ability.
Great, thank you so much. And then we have another question here. So again, our schools are just an IB and an A-level school, but sometimes students get information that if they want to apply to the UC, they should also take AP exams that are not related to our curriculum in order that it helps their application and so forth. Can you speak to that? Can you speak to that? Should students take AP exams if they're in our IB or A-level schools?
You don't need it. They don't need it. If they are stick with whatever your school curriculum is, really, when we look at the GPA calculation, for example, if you're an IB student at YCIS, right? We're only looking at your, so year 10, 11, 12, and 13. Then we focus on your year 11 and year 12, and we calculate GPA for you. Even if you take an AP class or AP exam outside, we're not going to be able to do the GPA calculation because we're only focusing on what you have in school. And honestly, for IB and A-level are both rigor. They're rigor in different ways, and some students are stronger in whichever one. So we really don't have a preference as to which one. And you don't need additional AP because we know that IB or A-level, they're both good curriculums, the same for us as AP. So we really don't have a preference.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And then I have another question here. If I go to boarding school in the U.S., does it make it easier for me to get admitted into the UCs?
Well, definition of easier, right? Depending on what they're comparing with and all that. But honestly, I always tell students that when we're looking at your academic, we look at all 4 years, 9, 10, 11, 12, all 4 years, right? If you are, say you finish up grade 9 in a school in China, and then you go to a boarding school in grade 10, 11, 12. When you apply in grade 12, you're going to be using your grades in grade 9, 10, and 11. We focus on your 10 and 11. Are you really confident that you're going to get a good grades when you're transitioning into a new school, a new curriculum, a new environment? Some students will, which I'm sure some of students will, but some students will struggle because of, missing home or the weather is different, when all the curriculum is different, the learning style, the teaching style. So I would say, again, going back to whichever one that you perform the best, because it's not about your school that you apply from. It's really about you. It doesn't matter where you end up going. It's you. It's not about the school. So going to a certain school doesn't give you, or being a certain location doesn't give you an advantage. At least in the UC application, it doesn't make a difference to us.
Thank you so much for that. I think that helps clear up a lot of our students because they get a lot of mixed messages in, I think, especially Chinese social media. Yes. Another question here, I believe this is from a student. The UCs are becoming very difficult to get admitted. What are some of the key components that you would say makes an application a strong application for an international student?
So when you're looking at the UC application, I always think of it as 3 parts, right? On top of the 3 parts, we ask you for your personal information, family information, but basically we focus on 3 things. Your academics. All 4 years, we want to know that how well you do, what curriculum that you do, and if you're making the most out of what's available to you. Ultimately, at UC like Davis, we want to admit students. We also want to graduate you. So we want to know that you're academically ready for UC education. So your academic is important. Then we look at your extracurricular activities, things you do outside of classroom. At a school like Davis, we have over 800 student clubs. Lots of activities, lots of clubs, lots of things that you can do outside of classroom, internship, research, whatever, right? So in high school, we want to see that you're part of your school community where you're taking advantage of all the resources that's available to you. Because when we look at what you're doing in high school, we can kind of project if you are going to be committing to our community and doing all these amazing things outside of classroom. Because let's be honest, right? When you go to university or colleges, it's not only about academics. It's about your social life. It's also about things that you do outside of the classroom that makes you, ready for graduate school or ready for apply to amazing jobs and things like that. So really, your extracurricular and awards is going to help us to understand what's important to you outside of classroom. And then the last part of the application is what we call personal insight questions, because the UCs, we don't take letter recommendation. We also don't do interviews. So basically, we look at your personal insight questions to kind of get to know you as a person. So this is a space for students to tell us who they are. Think of it as an interview. If one of our admission officer like myself will be asking them questions, question and answer format, giving us example that will really help us to understand what is important to them and getting to know who they are. So you also heard that I didn't say anything about SAT, ACT because it's no longer required. So the UCs has become officially test-free from SAT, ACT since 2020. So ultimately, the online UC application is everything we're going to see. There's also some space for students to explain certain things. So for example, if they have switched curriculum or switched schools, or for a certain reason, or if they have a family circumstance where they didn't perform as well academically or activities-wise, there is spaces called additional comments, additional information where they can explain things. So we hope students that would take advantage of those space and tell us anything that they could, if there's anything they need to tell us.
That's great. Thank you so much, San. I do have another question here about the A through G requirements. I just want to confirm that I'm knowing this correctly, that those are requirements that international students don't really have to worry about. They just have to put in their, it's a reflection of what our curriculum that we provide. Am I accurate in saying that?
Yes. So A through G requirements is generally for students who are studying high school in California. If you are doing IB or A level, stick with the curriculum. You're perfectly fine. Some UCs are a little more particular as to where in the A through G and all that, but it's really on our end to kind of look at your curriculum to figure that out, because we did take many students from IB or A level curriculum previously, so you don't have to worry too much about the A through G requirements. Just tell us whatever you have in terms of what is available at your schools.
Great, thank you so much. I have a question here about credit transfer. So if a student does well in their IB or in their A levels, is it possible to transfer? Does the UCs have a credit transfer system?
Yes, we do. So for IB, usually for students who have completed the IB diploma, if they get a 30 points above, which many students would, they would get a blanket of 30 quarter units for a school like Davis, because there were 7 UCs that are quarter system, so they get 30 quarter units, and semester is 20 semester units. So it's a 1 to 1.5 conversion, so it's essentially the same, and that's for IB. And for A level, if students get like the Cambridge A level and all that, if they get like A, B, or C, most of the subject that they will be able to get 12 quarter units or 8 semester units per subject. So it depends. It's not like a blank. So I want to say that for both IB and A level, we'll be looking at each of the subjects and make sure that there's no duplication and all that. But in many cases, if they're just a regular, the math, the English, the science, whatever, they will be able to get some credit. So I always tell students that when they get an offer from us in March, because that's when it usually happens, don't give up because they still have to take the May exam to make sure that they earn the predicted grades and all that. That way we can give them credit and we can reward them for the hard work for the A level or the IB exams.
Great, thank you so much. And I have another question that's related to kind of the credit transfer, but it's more to the community college system. Can you tell us a little bit more about how the community college systems work within the within the California public state higher ed system, and how that works within the UCs?
So there is 9 UC campuses we're known as a public education in California, and there is also 23 California state universities. So there's 23 all throughout California. San Jose State University, Cal State Fullerton, they're all really great universities. And then there is 114 California community colleges. So with the UC, CSU, CCC, California Community College, it's make up the public education of California. Then, of course, we have some really great private schools in California, liberal arts colleges as well. But in terms of students who are with the transfer pathway that we have for California community colleges, all the UCs, we take students from community colleges transferring in. So what it means is that for some students who might be, when they apply to university, we're like, well, they didn't think about applying to the UCs. or because of cost, because financial, students should be looking for financial fit as well. Starting at community college, that they can complete the first 2 years in community college and finish up their third and fourth year at a UC or a CSU, a 4-year institution like us. So what that means is that student would go in and do the general education and their major prerequisites at a community college, and they can transfer in. They can apply, then transfer into a 4-year institution, and then finish up their major classes, their upper division, and all that. And the graduation diploma that they get, it looks the same. It's still say University of California, whichever campus, whichever major. So I would say majority of students who are transferring in from, transferring to a UCs is from a California community college.
Great, that's great.
And we do like that pathway because there is 9 UC campuses. 6 of us actually have a transfer agreement guarantee, so it's called TAG, except for Berkeley, LA, and San Diego, I believe. So all the rest of us would have a transfer agreement guarantee where student, if they, for certain majors, if they finish up the units, if they get a certain GPA, they are almost like guaranteed to transfer to one of us. So that's something that I want to say that is the beauty of California higher education, is that students get many chances to go to the schools that they really wanted to go to, or sometimes students might take a gap year and whatnot and things like that. So it's very common.
That's great. And that's, again, that flexibility, that opportunity for students to find many different pathways to get to where they want. So I think that's the beauty of, again, the California public higher ed system. It's great. You brought up cost, so I do have some questions about cost, of course.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the cost for international students? And then also there's a question from parents that's about, is there a way, if they're a U.S. citizen, that they can become in-state tuition students, and what that process is like for the UC system?
Mm-hmm. So let's start talking about the cost. Right now, for the use, so for example, in Davis, our tuition cost right now is about $48,000 per year. And then if you're adding up all the costs for living costs, textbook, health insurance, and everything, the estimation every year is about $70,000 to $80,000 per year. If you're looking at a community college, I was just looking at it. So if for students that they are, for example, studying at a community college, let's say De Anza College in Northern California, their estimation of the tuition is about $10,000 per year. And then with the living costs and everything, they're estimated to about $31,000 per year. So you can kind of see the cost kind of cut into half, I would say, about. So it really depends on the family situation. And some students, if they have siblings, right, and if they're close in age, right, sometimes I think for parents, if they have to send 2 students out at the same time overlapping, it might be a lot. So I would say that I do want to say that for students who decide to go to community college, it's important that they think about, they plan ahead. They also are somebody who would have good time management, who go to talk to advisors, because when you are transferring into a school like UC's, right, there's a lot of requirements that you have to fit. So sometimes it's for freshmen, evaluation is much straightforward, where if you're IB, then we look at IB. If you're A-level, we look at, IGCSE A-level. But for students who are transferring, we don't have particular requirement for each subject. However, if students were to transfer into a UC, for the major that you intended to do, you do have to go through a pattern of like your prerequisites and general education. So there's a lot of planning involved. So I would say that if you are going to community college, you would have to really be a very independent student, and also someone who take initiative. So that is something that is very important.
Is it also possible if you can talk a little bit about, again, the in-state tuition?
Oh, yes. So the second question, yes, thank you, John. So as an admission officer, it's not something that we talk to students about in-state tuition, because it's really not our expertise. So on the UC application, there is what we call the statement of legal residence, where students fill out their family information and such. And that information will help our registrar office to decide or to understand that where your family is at. Generally speaking, California do have physical residency requirements. So for example, if a student is American, they grew up in Shanghai, then they will be considered as a non-resident. They will be paying the non-resident tuition fee, which is the same as international student. if you're saying the families from California, they're just moving back, they are out somewhere, you know, to, you know, for their personal reason or businesses and things like that. If the registrar office see your long-term intention of living in California and such afterwards, you might be able to regain that residency and such. So in many cases, it's really the physical residency, and then if the family has a long-term intention to live in California. However, as again, it's not my expertise to talk about that, and it's really the registrar office. Each UC campus has the residency deputy to kind of work with students on that end regarding to institution. So unfortunately, if a student do live outside of California, and not on a government assignment, so if they're not diplomatic families, then they're not able to right away. So it's something that student will need to work with the registrar office on.
Thank you so much for that. It's really, really helpful. And my last question is actually comes from me. I wanted to maybe just ask your advice to parents that are supporting their children through the application process. We all know that it's a hard and stressful time, and parents want to do their best. So just wondering from your perspective, what advice would you give our parents to help best support their children through this process?
I often say that it's a big decision. I want parents to remember that your student is the one who's going to go through that journey of application, of going there for 4 years, graduation and everything. So I always tell parents that the most difficult part of the application process is not getting in. It's to get in, stay in, and graduate. So make sure that your student own this application process. YCIS and YWIS has a great network of counselors where your students can rely on them to ask them questions. They are the expert there, college counselors, right? So I would say you don't need any outside help. For example, the UCs, we don't work with agents. We don't encourage students to work with agents. We encourage students to actually work on the application themselves. At the bottom of the UC application, students actually have to sign it off and say they work on the application themselves. So this is something that is very important to us, is where students work on the application, they do the research, they figure out their academic fit, their environment fit, their financial fit. This is also where they're going to be there for 4 years, that they're going to become hopefully a responsible young adult. So that environment is important to them. That major choice is important to them. I know that many parents have dreamed of their student becoming a certain major, or doctor, lawyer, engineers, because that's usually the 3 options, right? But I also want to remind parents that sometimes you have to think about these things, right? Many of you have been working for many years, and you know that when you're meeting someone, I always tell people that I'm very lucky where I have passion in my career, and that I'm pretty good at it, right? So I think finding a major, finding a career path is also similar to that, where a student will have to have the passion and the talent, right? So for example, in John and I, who were in the same major, same university, he had the passion and the talent. I only have the talent. I have no passion. I just want to do the bare minimum. John is going to go way too far, very far than me, because I only have the talent, not the passion. So that's very important, that when you are talking to your students about where they're going in university, whichever country, whichever type of university, you can help them and guide them to make that decision. But ultimately, well, you're paying for it, so I'm sure you have opinions on it. But at the same time, your student will have to want it. Because when they are so far away from you, anywhere they end up going, you're not going to be able to be there to help them. So right now, you help them to solve problem. It's easy because you're there. But when they're out there by themselves, they need to know how to solve problem, who to ask questions, and where to ask questions. So this is something that I hope during this application process that you can help your student to develop, is where they are comfortable asking you for help. They're comfortable asking their school counselor for help. And when they come to one of our great universities, hopefully they'll be doing that and be part of our community, because ultimately the students who ask the questions, who solve the problems, are the ones who are going to be successful. It's a long game. So it's not just like right now where they get in. It really is kind of skills that they would earn during this college search process. That was a very long answer.
And that was a fantastic answer. And, I would want to say thank you for being the representation of what you just shared, someone with a lot of talent, a lot of energy, and a lot of passion, and being excellent at what you do. Students and parents, I don't know how, I cannot convey this enough about how lucky we have San. She is very, very busy and, really traveling around the world and just sharing these great presentations. And we're really thankful. San, thank you for taking the time today to come and share your expertise and knowledge and just, again, just share your own personal experience as an international student with our families. Again, on behalf of all of our parents and our students and our schools and our community, thank you so much. And we can't wait to see you in person in one of our schools soon.
I would love that. Thank you, John. And I also want to say that, for parents to be part of this application process and this journey, really help your student to know that they have the support. And I think this is, again, something that when they're at university and when they're in college, it's very important to them. So I wish you all best of luck in this process. And I hope that your student will end up to wherever they want to go. And I'm sure wherever they end up going, that I hope they found a school like I found UC Davis, because that was really a life-changing decision for me, that going to UC Davis. And I wish that for everybody. Of course, I think Davis is the best, and that's the way I went to. But again, everyone should find their number one school. And all your counselors are there for you. Admission representative were there for you. So hopefully, these conversations, thank you, John, for doing this. I think a lot of parents, they love to be involved in this process, but they don't know how. So thank you for asking all these questions and helping them get the answers, because again, making your job easier is making our job easier. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time in our next UGO webinar. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye. Welcome back, everyone. We hope you enjoyed that conversation with San, and thank you for so many of the questions that you've asked. We're going to now give an opportunity to answer your questions live. If you have any questions, you can feel free to post them in the chat of the WeChat or in the chat of PolyV, and Jennifer and I will be able to answer them live. Any questions, we're here to answer your questions. And just to let you know, we will also share a copy of the recording of the webinar later. So if you need to watch anything again, it will be available for you. And also we will share also San's email contact, so you can follow up with her in an email. Jennifer?
好，欢迎回来。希望大家非常的享受刚刚的这个在线直播。那么接下来我们会在线回答各位的问题。同时呢，我们接下来也会在后续将今天的直播链接分享给到大家，同时也会将赛里女士的这个邮箱地址分享给到大家。如果您有更多的疑问，您也可以联系她。那么现在我们来回答大家的这个疑问。首先我看了一下，有家长在问雅思或者托福需要达到几分。那么首先呢 UC 戴维斯他们会是接受不同的语言种类，所以不仅仅是托福和雅思。那另外呢，就是雅思的话 in general 通常情况下是 6.5 分及以上，那么托福 IBT 的话是80级以上。但是呢，我们也希望大家能够走到大学的官方网站上面，包括您想要申请的专业以及语言要求这一栏，去寻找他们的具体的要求。有的时候可能不同的专业它的要求也是不一样的。同时呢，您也可以通过多种方式来满足大学的语言要求。
Great, thank you so much. So as you can see, Jennifer will answer all the questions that are posted in Chinese, and I will answer any of the questions that are posted in English. I have a question here that says, what does UC Davis provide any medical support at school? So if you kind of, and San talked a little bit about it within the webinar. She said, part of the tuition fee covers insurance and medical costs. So at UC Davis, there is a hospital actually on campus. There actually is a UC Davis hospital. So when students come onto campus, they will be asked, they have to purchase insurance. With their insurance, students will have coverage for any kind of medical need they will need at the university. So they will have access to a clinic that's something like a smaller a medical center on campus. But if they have anything major, there is a larger university hospital they can also see. Now, medical coverage not only covers things physical health, but also there's coverages of mental health as well. So universities in the United States do cover a lot of what the students will need, but then that's why you'll see when you are coming onto campus, there is a requirement for your child to buy insurance once they come on campus. So medical support is there. I'll pass over the next question to Jennifer. She'll answer the next Chinese question.
好，那么接下来一个问题是文书有什么建议啊？那首先呢，就是刚刚Miss Zhang也回答了，就是看同学们的这个申请的话，不仅仅是看重成绩，同样呢，更加看重同学们在高中阶段这个学习以外，在社区所做的一些事情，包括你的活动，包括你喜欢的各项这个参与的项目呀、研究活动以外之类的东西。所以呢，就是在文书板块的话，他们更加看重学生在申请的时候，你们自己写的大学提出来的相关的这个话题。所以我们的建议是，只要学生对某一项自己的活动，在自己的兴趣领导下参加学校能够提供给你的这种各项活动然后竞赛那么你所做的这些事情都可以在文书当中反馈出来，那么大学是会非常非常看重的。
Thank you so much. I'll take the next question that is in English, and then I realize there's a lot more questions in Chinese, so probably after this I'll pass to Jennifer for a little bit. I have another question here about community colleges. And just about explaining what community colleges mean. And for maybe some of our families that may not be clear, community colleges are part of the public university system of California. They're also public institutions of learning. Most community colleges offer 2-year associate's degrees. So students will be going there to get a 2-year associate's degree. At the completion of that associate's degree, they can then apply to a 4-year college. So as San was saying before, one, it's a lot more inexpensive, right? So as you saw, it costs about $70,000 to $80,000 to go to a 4-year university like UC Davis. It'll cost you maybe about $10,000 to $15,000 to go to a community college. So it's much cheaper. Also, for some, it's much easier to get enrolled or admitted in a community college. So sometimes our students just need to take some time in order to warm up, to do well enough to build up their academic strength and profile. Sometimes our students during high school don't do so well. So maybe by the time you're in year 13 or A2, you don't have the grades to apply to a UC, but you may have the grades to get into a community college. The community college then will give you 2 years to do as well as you can in that associate's degree. If you do well in the school, many UCs have what San said, a direct transfer agreement, which means if you hit a certain GPA at your community college in your associate's degree, you will automatically be accepted into a UC school. And they will count the 2 years of your community college, of your associate's degree. So you will actually start as a 3rd-year student. You would have earned 2 years worth of credit towards your degree. And also you would have saved all of that money you would have paid for going to the UCs for your 1st and 2nd year. So that's the community college system. And all state universities within the US has some system similar to that of the UCs. So if you go to Pennsylvania, for example, the Penn State has also their own community college system that connects with their Penn State University systems. So do you have same thing for New York? So it's a great process and a great choice, a different path for some of our students that may need it. Jennifer, back to you.
好的，那么接下来一个问题是，孩子在 UCLA 读了Year 3，然后参加 Summer Camp， 如何来选择适合他的专业啊？那么这个呢，首先我就讲一下如何来选专业是我们的一个逻辑和选择方式。那因为首先呢，您参加了这个 Summer Program， 那可能您孩子自己也会对他所学习的这个课程感兴趣，所以他可以从这一点出发去探索大学里面提供的课程，相关的课程他是否感兴趣。另外的话呢，我们一般建议学生通过他自己现在高中阶段所学习的这个科目，他最感兴趣什么样的科目，然后呢，不同的这个学科组合可以有哪一些这个专业的选择。一般来说，不同的学科任意几门组合在一起，都有非常非常多的专业可以选择。 那么另外呢，美国的大学呢也会提供这个 combine 的专业，所以学生可以选择主专业，也可以选择副专业，或者是有很多这个选修课程供大家去选择。所以呢，我们的建议是，请通过你们自己感兴趣的学科，然后去探索专业，然后探索完了以后呢，您可以到大学的官方网站上面去了解这个专业那么接下来这个就是一个具体细化到您自己更感兴趣哪一个专业，在最后1年的时候申请，您就可以选择一个你自己感兴趣和适合自己的专业了。这是选专业的一个逻辑。然后关于这个我看大家都在问这个关于雅思托福的分数哈。那刚刚我们已经讲到了 general 的，基本上是IBT 是80级以上，但是呢，其实大学会接受不同种类的这个语言的要求，那包括你考雅思托福，或者是以你校内的这些英语的课程是否也可以达到一定的水准，就能够免掉托福雅思在申请的时候。所以我们的建议是，请大家到这个官方网站上面一定要详细仔细的去读它的这个语言的要求和能达到多少分，甚至是否有小分的要求，以及你修了什么样的学科可以免掉语言的课程那另外呢，就是转学分。那么是的，如果您学习 A level 或者是 IB 转了学分以后呢，这就意味着您在大学本科阶段可以少修学分那么总的学分刚刚也有问120个学分那么学了 IB 或者 A level 是否还需要考雅思或者托福？这就像我刚刚回答您的，因为大学会接受不同的方式来满足语言的要求，所以呢，您可以去看一下相关课程它认可哪一个等级的这个语言分数。如果您满足了，那么您在申请的时候是不需要的。但是如果后续在办签证或者是其他需要的时候，您再可以考一个相关的语言的证书和合格的分数就可以了。另外呢，入学是否需要提供疫苗那么办签证的时候是需要大家提供你们打过的以前的疫苗的，所以呢，这个从小到大打过的这个疫苗证书大家还是需要去找回来的然后做一个翻译，到时候作为这个材料也会提供上去的。好
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, parents, for your questions. And thank you, Jennifer, so much for just providing so much information. I want to echo what Jennifer said before. Please do go to the websites and look specifically, because from UC to UC, the English requirements may be different. And also, as Jennifer has said before, from within the program of even just UC Davis, the English requirements will be different. So as we mentioned before, when we do send the recording of this webinar, we will also be sharing the email for San. You can feel free to email her and she will be able to also provide you guidance for more of those specific questions. So the reason for why we have these webinars is, of course, for you to hear information from Sam, but also for you to have a connection with that university. So students, especially students, you can feel free to email them. Universities really like it when they hear from students, when they hear their questions, because they show that they're interested. But as Jennifer has said before, especially for students, make sure before you write the email, you check out the website. See if the website actually provides the information, because if you keep emailing the university questions where you can find the information very easily on the website, that sometimes show the university that you may not be doing your homework. So again, make sure you do your homework, right? And if you do your homework and you still can't find the answer, then oftentimes you'll ask the best question. Anything else that you would like to add, Jennifer, before we close up for the evening?
Yeah, there's
there are more questions. Yes, yes.
Mentor for the new students in the first year.
Good question. Oh, thank you for catching that. Yes, so as you saw from San's presentation, there are actually a lot of support for international students. She talked about going to international students orientation, and then also there's an international student office where actually international students can go and ask any kinds of questions. In that international student office, they often will have upperclassmen or students that are of higher grades serving as mentors for first-year students. So that's a way for international students to find mentors. That's one way. The other way international students or students in general can find mentors on campus is when they live in their residency hall, they will have something like a residency hall student or older residency hall student that's going to be given the responsibility of guiding and leading the students that live in that residency hall, that live on that floor. That student also serves as a mentor. So international students can find mentors academically, maybe in the international program, in the international house, right? In the national students program. They can find a social mentor usually within the residence halls, usually from the residential hall student that's in charge of students. So yes, those are the different ways, two of the many probably other different ways that students can find a mentorship on campus. I also want to share that actually, for example, schools like UC Davis, we have a lot of YCYW alumni that are also at those schools. They are oftentimes great mentors for our students. So we will often try to match our current students, our graduates, with students that are there, our alumni that are there to be mentors. So yes, there's many different ways for us to look to develop mentorship and provide mentorship for our students.
好，那么接下来还是一个关于学分的问题啊。一方面呢，我们的学分是看我们的专业的；另外一方面呢，基本上学分总的是在120个学分。那么一般学校是会期待学生是完成这个学分才能毕业的哈。那么关于所以这个地方我是建议大家能够走到你感兴趣的大学和它的具体的 faculty 这个专业和 major 去看它具体的一个学分的安排。好，看看大家是否还有别的什么疑问。
Any other questions? Okay. If not, again, thank you, Jennifer, so much for co-hosting with me. And thank you, parents, for joining us this evening. We look forward to joining our next webinar, which will be on December the 9th, where we will invite University of Arts London to come and share about their university program, and especially giving feedback for students on art portfolios. We will also in that session talk about our very unique YCYW University Art Trip that will happen in the summer to provide students deep guided insight for our students who are interested in applying to schools in art and design. So we hope you've enjoyed our third university webinar, our third episode today, and we hope to see you in the next episode on December the 9th.
好，感谢大家，感谢我们希望今天晚上的这一场在线讲座大家收获颇多。那么接下来的话呢，我们会在12月9日有我们接下来的一场讲座，那是我们邀请到了 UAL 的大学的招生官，为大家来解读一下，就是这所艺术大学包括如何他们去看待这个艺术作品集，同时呢，我们也会分享一下我们耀中耀华的这个艺术的这个 trip 给到大家，希望大家到时候能够来参加。
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. 晚安。
好，谢谢，拜拜，晚安。